An offensive lineman to the Seattle Seahawks at number 16. That's not a bad option if you ask most people. And Troy Fautanu from University of Washington is a name that just happens to be popping up everywhere, every day on mock drafts that I'm seeing. And the place he's projected to get picked just kind of fits with the Seahawks. There's obviously 15, 16 different other reasons I'm going to mention throughout this video that we should consider taking Troy Fautanu as the 16th pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, let's go through why this is a option in the first place. Obviously, the offensive line has work to do. That's just simply one of the places that you could say, I guess, has one of the most, biggest holes for the Seahawks is protecting the quarterback. And it's a big deal. We have to find a way to protect the quarterback. I mean, there's just no other option. You have to remember, despite our offensive line being all right, I wouldn't say it was elite, but it was pretty decent. You have holes now. Damian Lewis left to Carolina, and Evan Brown left to Arizona. So we have holes in the protection. And that's going to be a big deal for Geno Smith, Ryan Grubb as his first year as offensive coordinator, and Scott Huff, his first year as the offensive line coach. They got to find ways to fix it. And obviously, Troy Fautanu comes from Washington, from the Huskies. So having Scott Huff, the Washington Huskies offensive line coach last year, and Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator for the Washington Huskies last year, this would be somebody that would kind of just make sense to reunite with his guys, right? And the big thing is athleticism on the offensive line, and he's versatile. He can step in at almost any position, and that's one of the biggest reasons that everybody is loving the potential of these guys. He has some of the most versatility we'll see from an offensive lineman. He's athletic, he's fast. I've been watching old YouTube videos of him talking in high school, and his high school coach is talking about it. He was a defensive end in high school, and they told him, you probably have a better chance at offensive line, so just start playing offensive line. He became a star on the offensive line and defensively on the D-line, and he just chose to do offensive line because they thought he could be a better prospect there. But he was like a superstar defensive end, defensive lineman in general in high school, which is pretty crazy to think about. I read this comment on YouTube, and it was on NFL on NBC, where they're talking about he has a violent mindset on the offensive line. And by the way, NFL on NBC has him ranked on their number 12 on their big board. The first comment was, this kid isn't lying. As one of his high school coaches, he originally wanted to play DM, but we told him he'd get recruited better at OT, and he'd play more there. And Troy just said, well, then I'll play OT. He said he is really athletically gifted enough to play any spot on line. Such a great kid and so excited for his future. And as you go before that, I've just seen everywhere that he did play that spot. It's not just that he changed the offensive tackle. Like, he played both, and he was very good at it. So this is exciting as a potential pick. And I think the big part here is, as I mentioned, the versatility. Here's what some people are saying about him. Overall, Fautanu is explosive on the move and at contact with foot quickness and body control, and the temperament to stack wins in both pass protection and as a run blocker in the NFL. While he has the talent to remain at tackle, which the Seahawks wouldn't need, right, with Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, his skill set also projects well to guard and center, and he offers a legitimate 5-position potential at the next level. And that's where it gets important. The fact that you might potentially have a guy that can fit in all our needs. Right now at tackle, if Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross are healthy, we're going to be pretty good there, right? But if we can find a way to fill in some of that guard spot or the center position, if Olusegun Oluwatimi doesn't work out, you're talking about a guy of Troy Fautanu that can fit in all positions. He projects well at center, at guard, and at tackle. So I've said it multiple times, but the versatility, the athleticism is something that's no joke. It's just not. He is an NFL ready size with athleticism. 6'4", 317 pound, played mostly left tackle, but his ability to move well would also certainly translate moving into guard. So everyone's saying that this can move around. This could give Seattle a left side of Fautanu at guard and Charles Cross at left tackle, and that would potentially be Seattle's best left side since the early 2000s when Walter Jones played left tackle and Steve Hutchinson played left guard. Now, obviously, that's a giant projection. I'm saying that Troy Fautanu could become the Steve Hutchinson to the Walter Jones with Charles Cross and him. But you never know how this can work out. If the guy comes in is as versatile as people are saying, then you never know where it can go. Let's not forget, this guy ran a 5.0140 at the combine. And that might not sound like a lot when you see these wide receivers or corners, whoever, these guys breaking records like the low fours. 5.01 is extremely high for a lineman. So this whole concept of his versatility is no joke, and his athleticism is no joke. So his production score on NFL Next Gen Stats, you can find them on ESPN.com. He had an 80 score at the combine for production, which was 7th for all the offensive linemen or offensive tackles, I guess. Athleticism score of 87, which ranked 2nd out of everybody. So his total score was 3rd for offensive tackles. 5.01 40-yard dash, a 32.5 vertical jump, and a 9.5 broad jump. Very, very, extremely athletic for a big man, 317 pounds. So there is a lot of optimism that he could be that guy. And before we get into where he's going to go in the draft, let's look at some of the numbers too. I wanted to go on PFF. I know some people like PFF, some people don't. It's not my gospel. It's not my Bible. I'm not stuck on PFF scores. I like to just read them to see what, scores are coming out. Sometimes it's extremely accurate and shows how good somebody is, and sometimes it's a flop. Sometimes it's just, the metrics kind of worked for a guy, even though the production didn't show on the field. But I went to pass blocking in college football last year to the grades, who had the top grades out of all tackles. He was 5th with an 88.2 score. The highest score was Patrick Paul from Houston with a 91.5, and the second highest was 91.2 was Joel Alt from Notre Dame, who will probably be one of the first or second tackle taken in the draft ahead of Fautanu. But the number 4 guy on the list was I can't say the names. It's so hard. Olumuyiwa Fashanu from Penn State with an 88.4, and Fautanu was right below him at the 88.2. And those are 3 guys that are going to go somewhere in the top, maybe 15, 16, 17 in the NFL draft. So his grades were good on PFF. The run grade was a little bit lower, but I think the interesting thing was Washington as an entire unit was lower on the offensive line as a run grade. If we go to run grades for Washington, they were not even in the top 50, I believe. They weren't as an offensive line. But in pass blocking grades, they were 6th in the nation behind Oregon, Arizona, Texas, UTEP, and Florida State. So he was a huge part to why they became one of the best top 6 pass blocking offensive lines in the nation, which is something the Seahawks could really use, especially if you're going to stick with Geno Smith and you want him to have one more really good or 2 more really good years with you. You need the protection, like extremely. So another place I showed you on NBC Sports, or I told you on NBC, they had him at a 12 grade overall for draft projection. On NFL Draft Buzz, they have him as 5th position rank. Overall 21 as their projection, first to mid-first round. So mid-first round, which is exactly where the Seahawks sit at 16. And I wanted to go through, I did the mock draft on PFF. So I wanted to see on the mock draft on PFF where exactly they land. I've ran like 4, 5, 6, 7 different mock drafts. I've moved it from unrealistic to realistic. You can kind of pick those options on PFF. And every time I'm landing with Troy Fautanu as a possibility. His rank on PFF is 14th, but his average draft pick is 17.6. And as you know, we land right at 16. The only tackles to go ahead of him, or offensive linemen in general, as I mentioned before, Joe Alt from Notre Dame went 8th in this mock draft. Tackle from Notre Dame, Joe Alt, went 8th to the Falcons. You had Talise Fuaga from Oregon State, tackle at number 10 to the Jets. The hard name that I couldn't say, Alu Muaya Fashanu from Penn State, tackle at number 12. Also, if you guys know how to say the names, like, give me the written out way in the comments. I don't mind. I don't get offended if you tell me I'm saying them wrong and you tell me how to say it. Because if you're Polynesian and you know how to say a name, it's easier. If you were I'm Middle Eastern. My last name is Jarjour. Some people don't know how to say a Middle Eastern last name, Jarjour, if they saw it on paper. I don't care if somebody says it wrong. I don't mind correcting them, though, and helping them say it correctly. At 14, so that was 4 tackles taken ahead of him. At 14, it was J.C. Latham from Alabama, another guy that I'd love to land with the Seahawks if he landed there, but I don't even think he's going to go as far as 14. I think he might end up 10, 11, or 12th in this draft. But he lands right there, Troy Fautanu, at the spot for the Seahawks. Every mock draft I've done. So overall, when you take every possibility, right? The fact that he's from Washington, I think he was from Nevada, technically, like in high school. But I'm saying Washington Huskies. He was living in Seattle the last couple of years. Scott Huff, the offensive lineman, chose not to go to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. He chose to go become the offensive lineman coach at the Seahawks. And Ryan Grubb, same thing. Went to Alabama for like a couple of days. Seahawks offered him the offensive coordinator job, came here. So those guys love him probably. They know how versatile he is. And the ability to be able to play any position really changes the game on the offensive line, considering the fact that we've dealt with injuries, that we've lost guys. We're not 100% at the center position. I would love to see Olusegun Oluwatumi get the opportunity and do well. I made a video of him last year after the draft. I think it's my highest viewed video ever, like 30,000 views. But it didn't work out. They ended up giving Evan Brown the job. But it looks like maybe this year, if they don't draft a center, that means they trust him to be the guy. But overall, we need the versatility. We don't know what the guard position is going to look like. We don't know what the health of Abraham Lucas will look like as the season goes on at tackle. So you want someone that's versatile, especially for those that are not in the pick a quarterback. For those that aren't in the J.J. McCarthy, Spencer Rattler, Michael Penix Jr., if you're not in that camp, Bo Nix camp, I think the next best thing you can get is offensive line or defensive line. Those are the two spots, maybe an interior defensive line, even an edge rusher. I know we have a lot of pieces. I just would love more. They say build a football team from inside out. Outside of the quarterback, for me, outside of the quarterback, it's very specific. Quarterbacks have a very specific value. From inside out. If that line is good, if the interior is good, it makes everything else possible to be good. So Troy Fautanu to the Seattle Seahawks at 16th. It's a possibility, and maybe we'll see it happen. We have, I think, exactly to today, 2 weeks till the draft. So I can't wait to see what happens. You got to make sure you like and subscribe to get all my videos. After the draft, I'll probably, over the next few days after the draft, be doing different videos on each player that we picked. And then leading up to the draft right now, I'm going to be doing a lot of draft projection videos. Please comment below what you would like to see on the channel, and I'll definitely make it happen. And check out our podcast, the Sports on Tap Seattle page. It's at Seattle on Tap. It's me and my brother's Seahawks podcast. We might be going live on draft day or be doing like immediately after a podcast after that 16th pick. So make sure you check out that channel. And I have a bunch of other channels on here. I have an NBA channel. We have a Mariners channel as a podcast, a Seahawks channel, a Huskies channel, a Washington Huskies channel. So if you like the Huskies, make sure you get down there. And I have a life channel where I just talk about content creation and life and sometimes like quotes and different things. Whatever you want to support me on, it'd mean the world to me. So go down there, do it. And I love y'all. And we'll be back almost daily. I'm trying. I love y'all.